The financial experts getting ready to share my screen.
Saying what they saying.
Man, financial experts say it's gonna be tough.
Well, I want
It's
to
gonna be
ask
tough
you
for the
about
housing
this
market.
because this is an economic story we're seeing playing out. One of the big stories to end 2024 has been the home buyer story. American homeowners are feeling the crunch of home insurance and property tax payments. That is really pushing up their monthly mortgages. The Wall Street Journal found that in September, 32% of the average single family monthly mortgage payment went to insurance and tax payments. That's the highest since 2014. Analysts say the climbing cost of property taxes and home insurance, it's not going to come down, putting further burden on homeowners, even if they've refinanced or even if they got a low rate on their mortgage. They got that 3.5% or 4%, for instance.
Wow, this is going to be really tough on the housing market. I'm going to tell you that right now, of late, the worst performing sector in the U.S. equity market has been housing related shares. They're under a lot of pressure. They've been sinking by double-digit percentage for the current quarter to date since the election. It's really a mess. Let's face it. You go ahead.
So I don't think we need to we don't need to watch any more of this, but man, they said
Yeesh.
they say it's gonna get tougher, man. They say it's gonna get tougher in the housing market. It's gonna be really tough for the housing market. Hey, I'll be honest with you, man. Taxes is increasing. Even us, we have a pretty modest place. And you've been here. We have a pretty modest place, but so it wasn't that we couldn't afford more. We could have. We could have. And that's a trap. Like whenever you go in and you getting approved, they like, oh, you can actually, you really can afford 750. And you like, and you start calculating the math. You're like, well, just because you're looking at our total, like our finances, and it's saying that we can buy this larger place, but you need to do the calculations in your head, like, okay, hold on,
Yep.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I need to make sure I'm thinking about property taxes because what they are today, depending on what area that you're in, there's a chance that those are gonna go up.
Wow.
Insurance, there's a chance that your insurance could possibly go up. But also, what people don't understand is the phantom cost. There are so many ancillary things that come up with a home. I don't know what it is, but and I see it all the time. When people have homes, they get home fever. Like before you know it, every other weekend they get people get super creative. Let me stop. I'm setting a timer. Make sure we keep it up to a certain time length. But people get house fever and they just randomly buying stuff for the house and just buying random stuff for the house. Like, oh, I already got a lamp, but I want to go get this other lamp and replace that lamp. And it's
Yep.
like, how many lamps do you need? Or, the big TV, or hey, I need to renovate, take the carpet out, you know, and you've already purchased the house. Oh, I want to redo the bathroom. Oh, like it's like with a house, it's just never paid for. It's always something to do. And sometimes you just be forcing expenses. Like you get bored or something and you just get to looking around and you just trying to buy something else to add and put it to the house. Like I've especially seen it with people that's retired. My goodness. Like they
Mm.
always out and about. Like especially if you ain't working no more, like you always finding something to buy and put into the house. And before you know it, you just got a whole bunch of stuff in your home. And I don't know, man. I'm seeing it play out. I'm so thankful that we bought something modest because yes, we've seen the insurance increase. We like, wait a minute, we increased our deductible, to reduce our insurance, and it still went up. And it's like, I guess that's just the time that we in. But in terms of the affordability, back to the initial story of like buying homes, it's a lot of costs that come along with it, but beyond just the monthly payments, you got to think about PMI, private mortgage insurance if you don't put enough down. We actually just we actually just got that removed from ours because once you get it paid down to a certain amount, you don't need it anymore. And actually, it's the bank that's requiring you to get it if you get a loan. But I'll open it up, let you get your thoughts on it because, obviously I'm coming from a millennial perspective, and then you have your perspective who hadn't purchased a home yet, and you're in a different cost of living area. So, what is your perspective when you hear that it's going to be really tough in the housing market?
It's definitely, it's just funny because I think that Gen Z, I'll speak to my generation. I think we're pretty easy to market towards or to get us to think something's
Mm,
attractive. All you gotta do is make a nice TikTok, put some cute music in the background, and show us somebody who's in our age range that's doing it. And I think that's one thing that
mm,
was done for is like home ownership. They romanticize home ownership, like, oh, you just have to, like you say, if you fit the requirements and there's all these homeowner assistance programs. It's like a milestone that's to be celebrated and raced towards. And it's almost like it's a home run. Like, oh, once I'm in there, I'm almost set. Like I'm straight. I'm good. And so, like you said, these phantom costs. I mean, we hear about the phantom costs if for those of us that care enough to do a little research, but to actually see it play out to where the phantom costs cost more than the mortgage itself. Like, because
mm.
so much, it gets preached to us so much that, okay, as long as you can afford the mortgage, you good. The mortgage, you're already paying that in rent. Why are you renting right now? And
Man,
so,
that's the
like,
worst. I hate hearing that. Like, I've I've always had a reaction towards that even before I, owned the place or whatever. Like when people would say that, I was like, I would always say, but at an apartment, like if something comes up, you could make a quick call, like, hey, y'all need to come fix this. So it's like just it was like your rent, your bill, your utility bills, those little ancillary things. But when it came to fixing things, hey, I need y'all to come by and fix this. You can kind of control. Now what the counter is, hey, but they can raise it up on you, and that's true, and I'm not against home ownership at all, but like when people use that argument, hey, it's hey man, I'm paying what I'm paying with my rent, then I can pay with my mortgage. I might well just get a mortgage. But you signing up for like 360 mortgage payment, like for the next 30 years. Like,
mm,
so I don't know if that's the same comparison. At least with renting, you're using it and you're done. Like, no harm, no foul, you're done. But over here, you got this debt now, whether it be 500, 600,000, that ain't going away no time soon. Not a bad thing, but just understand what you're truly getting into. Versus, you can't just make a blanket statement like that, But anyway, I'll cut you off, but I'll let you close us out on this one. This is always that conversation, and people get heated when you talk bad against home ownership or one way or the other. I'm somewhere in the middle, but and it's pretty costly to afford these days with these higher interest rates too. Because I look and I'm like, ooh, we have a lower interest rate, even though we'll be finished paying it off by the end of the year. At the end of the year, so we'll probably end up looking to maybe shift to go somewhere else anyway. But we'll be in that scenario. So I'll leave you with this, and I'll let Ken get the final words. Make sure you truly can afford it. Make sure you still have some buffer, some discretionary income, because things do come up.
it's real. And I think that, like I was saying, Gen Z, we're so easy. We get so caught up in, all you got to do is show us a pretty example. Such and such did it, so that means you can do it. We get so caught up in that, and we get caught up in whether we can do it. We don't get caught up in whether we should do it. And like, for instance, like people look at home ownership as like a stepping stone to get into real estate and start real estate investing. They use that as a justification for buying their first home. Like, oh, I'm gonna what do they call it when they have someone living with them? I forgot what they call it, but I'm gonna rent out. I'm gonna stay in one part, rent out the other 2 or 3 units or other unit. And like
House
you
hacking.
said, yeah, they house hack, but like you said, I think you just have to don't someone on social media can easily show you what they want to show you, but you don't know all the nightmares that went into. You don't know what they had to restore. They're not going to tell you about the nightmare tenants. Now, some people on social media that are transparent, they're like, man, I just had a tenant tear my house up. And so they'll show you these things, but I'll just say, like Kenny said, do your research. Don't just jump in on your own thinking. Get a team, and if the team is telling you to go ahead, then listen to your team. But don't just go. It's not a decision you want to just be Lone Ranger on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's real. You made me think about something. And if you do house hack, make sure you can afford the mortgage by yourself.
Mm.
Do not get the mortgage needing someone else's income. Make sure you can cover the whole thing by yourself. And then if you happen to house hack, or if you have a vacancy, it's all good. Like you could still cover it. Like that's a key thing because a lot of times people lose their shirts because they're buying things and they hoping everything goes 100% perfect. And I'm here to tell you, you plan for the best, but you expect the best and things are going to work out in your favor always, but you also need to plan for, hey, what if I have some vacancies, or what if I need to cover this for myself for a period of time? So just be wise about it, not pushing against it, but your financial situation, if you can afford it or not. And if you're already on the financial red line, regardless on anybody telling you that you can, hey, you approved by this much, if you're kind of already on the red line of some challenges that you're having, or just because you have an approval letter, you still need to make sure that you can afford it because you don't want to be house poor. Like you in that house, you can't do nothing else, like nothing else, and you can't afford to something going wrong. Like so, at least make sure you got an emergency fund because we want to talk about practical things, right? So at least make sure you have a solid emergency fund in the event something come up because it will. That's not being negative. Things will come up. That's just a part of life. And just you deal with it. It's an inconvenience. You take care of it and you move on. And so if you're in that space, hey, do your thing, man. Do your thing. Get your crib, man.